Hello guys, I am back with another episode. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and the message reads like this. Hello, how are you? I listened to that story about that woman who wanted to sell her body as a prostitute, but she failed to get any single customer. That lady who was saying that she has bad luck. I want her to thank God, because God is the one who protected her when she tried to sell her body as a prostitute, but she could not find any customer. Let me share with her my own story. I am currently married to a man whom I can safely say he is a ritualist. As I am speaking with you right now, I was forced into this marriage. I never wanted to marry this man, but my parents forced me. That was a long time ago when I was still 19 years. They forced me to marry this guy because back in the village, he seemed as if he was the only decent guy. But when I would look at him, I would see that there was something sinister about him. He was always chasing after money, but he had this other side of him that loved God the most. That is why my parents forced me to marry this man. I don't know if my parents forced me to marry this man simply because they were not my biological parents. What happened to my parents was that they perished in a car accident. Then my mother's younger sister, she was the one who took care of me from the tender age of 3 years. So when I grew up into a beautiful young lady, that is when my mother's younger sister started forcing me to get into a relationship with that guy. And each and every time when I would tell her that I was not ready for a relationship yet, she would get so angry. On some days then she would deny me food to eat. So I didn't have a choice rather than to get into a relationship with this guy. When we were in the village, that guy, he was such a hard worker. So in the end, I thought that maybe I was the one who was not trusting him enough. I ended up giving him my heart, but he broke me to pieces. I was introduced to this man who is now my husband. by this other friend of mine. We used to go to this white garment church back in the village when we were still young. So my friend asked me to go with her because she wanted to go and see this other prophet. When we went there, that is when I met this guy that is now my husband. He was a prophet by then, but I didn't trust him. He used to do signs and wonders, but when he came to ask for my hand in marriage, it was hard for me because he was way older than I was. But no matter how hard I tried to refuse when he was asking for my hand in marriage, there was too much pressure that was coming from my mother's younger sister. She kept on pressuring me. Maybe she wanted to kick me out of her house because she didn't want another extra mouth to feed. But I am thankful for her because she took care of me since I was 3 years old. With that time when she literally kicked me out of her house by forcing me to get married to that prophet, I was only 19 years. I was just a little girl. The way that I got married to that prophet, he came to my people and he told my people that God had chosen me to be his wife, and it was in our favor as a family if God had chosen me to become his wife because he was God's servant. But now I am tired. Many years has gone by. I thought that maybe this man was going to change. Now that he is on social media, I think that let me speak my own truth. Even if I were to die, I would have let out things that has been troubling me for all these years. These days, my husband, he is very active on TikTok. If you see him on TikTok, you will say, here is the man of God. but he's just a fake man. I don't believe in any of his prophecies, because behind his prophecies there are other evil stuff that he does. And all of these things, he started doing it when we left the village after we got married. What surprised me was that after our wedding, he never came into the room that I was sleeping in. He said that he was fasting, so he didn't want to have sexual intercourse with me. Otherwise, I was going to make him dirty. So I left him to fast, and he did this for almost 40 days. It was quite a terrible time for me. I didn't even enjoy my marriage. If you think that this was cruel, he did more to me by the time that we went to the city. When we were in the city, there was this other guy. He just came to our house because from the village, when we went to the city, we were just staying in a one room. This other guy, he came, he was driving a very big car. He had a briefcase. In those days, men used to go around carrying a briefcase. When that man came, it was almost in the middle of the night. We were sleeping. We had a knock on the door, but my husband, he had already told me that there was a visitor that was going to come and visit us. But when we went to bed, I never thought that our visitor was going to pay us a visit in the middle of the night. My husband woke me up and he said, "Get out of bed and wear your clothes." So I got out of bed. Then I just sat on the bed. My husband also wore his clothes. Then he went and he opened the door. That man then walked into our room. Then he placed a briefcase on the table. Then he just left. He never spoke with me or my husband. He just left the briefcase. My husband then locked the door. He opened the briefcase. There was a lot of money in that briefcase. Then there was a ring that was placed on top of the money which was inside that briefcase. He started counting that money. I was so scared. I thought that maybe my husband had turned into an armed robber. He counted that money until I fell asleep. Early in the morning, he woke up. Then he started counting that money. It was a lot of money. I think he spent almost half of the day counting the money. He never told me how much it was, but he just took that ring after he had told me to put some water for him so that he can bath. After bathing, he took that ring and he wore it on his finger. Then he walked out of the room. Where he had gone to, I don't know. He just took a bunch of money when he left the room. I was scared even to look at that briefcase because it contained a lot of money. Later on, my husband returned. He had bought a brand new car because it still didn't have any number plates on. Then he said, "Let us go for a ride." He said, "This is my new car." And mind you, at that time, me and my husband, we had never been intimate in bed. He had told me that he was still fasting. After that, he told me that we were going to move out of that one room that we were staying in, and we were going to stay in the suburbs. So we went there. It was quite a big house, but whilst we were staying in the suburbs, that is when my husband broke my heart. Because what happened next, I never expected it. He told me that we were not supposed to have sexual intercourse because this is what God had told him. And as the man of the house, he had to get sex from somewhere else, not me, because he could not control himself, even though God had told him that he was not supposed to touch any woman. This was for a period of time that God had given to him. But now I know that this God that he was speaking about, it was the devil himself. My husband, what he would do is that he would go out, especially at night. Then he would book those prostitutes that stand by the side of the road. Most of the times, he would come with a single prostitute, but on other nights, he would come back home with two women. Then they would lock themselves up in this other room. All these prostitutes that used to come with my husband, what they didn't know is that the room that he would lock himself with them, it was actually his room that he used for his rituals. Even today, he is still using that room for his rituals. Even before he does his TikTok live videos, he always go into that room, then he does his rituals, then he will go on TikTok. And you will see that a lot of people would be asking him to prophesy. And yes, he prophesy. Sometimes he can tell you a true prophecy, but the source of the power is the one that I want people to know. So what my husband would do is that whenever you would bring all of these prostitutes, you would pretend as if I was the maid. Sometimes these women that you would have picked up from the street, they will spend the rest of the weekend at my house, and my husband would give me an instruction that I was supposed to act as if I was a maid. There was no way that I could refuse, because this man, he was taking care of my family. He was way older than me. I was scared of him. He gave me an instruction that whenever you would go out and bring these women, and if that woman was going to stay at our house throughout the weekend, I was supposed to cook, but with water that I would have gathered from the toilet. That is the water that I would use when I would be cooking for these women that he was bringing over at our house. I don't know how he was doing it, but I know that he was harvesting blood whenever these women will be on their periods. Up until today, I still don't understand how he was able to harvest their blood. But all that I know is that whenever he would have harvested blood from all of these women that he was bringing at our house, he would walk out of that room that he told me I should not enter with a huge sum of money. Sometimes when my husband is sleeping, he can just talk with himself whilst he is sleeping like that. That is how I came to know all of these rituals that he performed, because when he is sleeping and talking like that, he lets out all of his secrets. There was this other night where he kept on saying that I have to worship the snake. This snake is staying with me, and he was actually pointing as if he was seeing that snake in his dream, but I have never seen that snake. We are not supposed to have sexual intercourse more than 6 times a month. I don't even know why, but I am not even allowed to touch my husband when we are in bed. I have to wait for him. My brother, the reason why I have come out in the open, it is because I am tired. Many years in this marriage, and I don't have a child, and I am sure that he could have sacrificed my blood. And there was this other day, I saw a notebook in his car. So I opened it, and I saw that in that notebook, there were a lot of names. And most of the names that were written in that notebook are names of his relatives. And what broke my heart is that I saw that even my father's name is in that notebook. So I don't know what are these names for, but that is my secret. I just want to tell that lady who was saying that she has bad luck and she tried to prostitute herself, she has to give thanks to God. Just imagine if one of her customers had been my husband, what was going to happen to her? Because I know for a fact that my husband somehow he is harvesting period blood of all these women that he brings to our house. I am just living a sad life, rich as we are, but I don't have happiness. Phew. Dear listeners, right there was a message that I received from Anonymous. Quite a scary story. Please let us talk about this issue in the comment section. I'll be back with another episode.